we having our guests here looking at the quest for good governance and looking at the imperatives of patriotic sacrifice. We look at the need to deepen patriotic level, patriotism in Nigeria. Way back when Nigeria got our independence, there's huge celebration about having self-government and a situation where we'll have our leadership, that will look into solving the problems that we're faced with as a country. Looking at that, we need to deepen the patriotic level of Nigerians, what you can do for your country, like what some will say, don't just look at what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country. At this point where Nigeria is at the cusp of bringing a very deliberate policy, that will help us deepen our governance, it's important that everyone's hands should be on deck. And looking at this whole discussion with me, looking at the sensitiveness of this whole issue as regards making Nigeria great, the patriotism that we should have, I have distinguished personalities with me, starting from my extreme left, where I have a seasoned public affairs analyst, Malam Nuruddin Asunogie. Thanks for joining, Malam.
Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for having me.
Also, close to Malam Nuruddin Asunogie is a civil society activist, a pragmatic one at that, articulate, and he is no one else but Solomon Idiogbe. Thanks for coming, Solomon.
Thank you so much, Philip, and viewers at home, a very good morning this morning.
And awesome to know that we have a political scientist in our midst, a lecturer at University of Benin, Neville Obakedo. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers and listeners at home.
Okay, let's hit the ground running, and starting with you, Nuruddin Asunogie. We look at the need for us to have patriotic values. Nigeria is going through a lot. We have situations bedeviled in the country, and it's expected that patriotism should be raised at the level of the leadership and, of course, the followership. Now, what do you see under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration? Do you see the administration as giving a head start, to all of this, looking at how he started with the inaugural speech and, of course, the policies that followed? Do you see him as raising a head start for patriotic sacrifice?
Well, thank you for having me. I honestly am a little beathead manacled by trepidation because I do not want to sound vituperative. But I get the feeling that once a leadership is encouraged, a leadership that has no shame, as it were, in regaling in the defecation of a common patrimony, then patriotism is on sabbatical. Sadly enough, it's like that basically is what we have had over time. We have not had leadership that have been deliberately patriotic, a leadership that had attempted to galvanize the collective consciousness of the people towards building a viral society. Countries like Singapore, countries like South Korea, their success wasn't something built on what was fortuitous. It was a consequence of a studious attempt on the part of leadership to galvanize and harness resources for the good betterment of society. But like you said, inaugural speech, the president said, I'm removing oil subsidy. That in itself was an act people have classified as an act that demonstrated courage, demonstrated impervidity. Well, we ask the question, what is courage if it is not guided by sapience or wisdom? What is courage if it makes you parsimonious with the fulfillment of the very promise you have made? In his campaign, yes, he said, we will deal with the issue of subsidy. But he said, we will do X, Y, Z before we begin to address the issue of subsidy. And so when you become impulsive, you make a statement without first articulating the essence of the statement you are making. That's no courage. I could call anybody the name I want to call the person, and you say that is courage. There are consequences. If I didn't articulate what will come as a natural corollary to that which I have said without first articulating. And so today, there is an accentuation of the state of squalor, of the already ululating vast majority of the Nigerian citizenry. A consequence of a poorly articulated policy, a policy that has not even demonstrated courage to deal with what the issues are. Because if you do not deal with the issues that make it impossible for you to deal with what you call the backward-forward linkage that an economy requires to grow and ultimately develop, you are not a courageous person. Anybody could do what he has done. But the one who has courage is the one who will be able to deal with and deals frontally with the consequences that would be the fallout of the decision you have taken. Because every decision comes with consequences.
Wow.
Are we prepared for this? What we have seen, no. All we have done is, in local parlance, when you say we do waste management, you ask what is the management in a waste that I took from my bedroom to the parlor? It is waste recycle. You just recycled it. Management will mean that in the state where it was trash, you are creating what makes it of a utilitarian value.
Thank you very much for taking us through that vocabulary development, and but you didn't fail to elucidate, what we are going through as Nigerians, and I must say thank you for your articulation on that. Let's take it to a deeper level. Solomon Ijogbe, you are a civil society activist, and we can remember vividly, the struggle to make Nigeria great, having a dream that will come to pass, having leaders that will bring us to our point of El Dorado. All of these come through patriotism. Leaders who are ready to sacrifice, leaders who are ready to go it all, go any distance, to get the job done, irrespective of what it takes. Are we there yet?
Not at all. Painfully. Nigerians were looking forward to electing leaders in the last general elections. Unfortunately, we ended up selecting leaders. When you talk about sacrifice, it's two ways. It's either you are being used as sacrifice or someone is making sacrifice. Unfortunately, Nigerians today are being used as though for sacrifice by both the executives, the legislators, and the judiciary, unfortunately. I can't imagine, you're talking about sacrifice and patriotism. Who amongst those within this arm that I've mentioned can be described as a patriotic Nigerian? When we hear on radio and television that each of the newly selected lawmakers are dancing home with over 200 and something million. And recently we also got to know over the radio and television in the way of appropriation, if you like, call it misappropriation, that they are getting over 40 billion to get some logistics, if you like. And again, hurriedly, quickly, they, within one day, approved the 500 billion naira for palliative.
To cushion the effect of the very poor.
And recently we got to know that they were just cushioning their own effects by collecting, misappropriating, if you like, or appropriating 70 billion out of the 500 billion to themselves.
No. That's from the total package of 819 billion. The 500 billion is out of it. The 70 billion is not.
Who are you palliating? You are malating. It's I'm laughing because I see Philip trying to come to their defense because we are in this country.
I'm trying to put the information in the right perspective.
I hear. I do not think that 8,000 naira is a problem of any household in Nigeria. And I then asked Mr. President again, can he tell us the accurate figures of the total number of Nigerians? The answer will be no. And I'm aware they're already also earmarking billions for what they refer to as census. That's because they do not know the actual figures of the total number of Nigerians. And then you are telling us that you want to give 12 million Nigerians,
yeah.
8,000 naira. And I'm sure Philip knows, as a family man, 8,000 naira cannot provide successfully for 1 week.
Don't forget the target is for the very poor.
I'm going there and I'm asking with what is the yardstick for measuring the very poor? If you like, the poorest of the poor, as it is being said. When you, of course, do not know the total number of persons. Because before we begin to say, oh, let us address the poor of the poorest within a catchment area, you must have statistics. You must have a yardstick for measuring the poorest of the poorest. And again, I was taken aback when Mr. President recently said he was declaring state of emergency on food security. And I was asking myself, was it food security or insecurity? Because when you tackle insecurity, you'd have tackled the issue of food security that you are talking about. The reason why you're having shortage of food and all whatnot is because people can no longer go to farms as a result of what the federal government refers to as bandits or no gunmen, herders, farmers clash. Whereas before they came, the government, the ruling party as it were, what we knew was Boko Haram existing only in Northeast. So for me, we're just better described as living from fire pan to fire. We are still where we are, now where we did, we still did. So I do not see any act of patriotism in because you are talking about sacrifice. You must first talk about those who are at the ends of affairs, showing some level of sacrifice. You are asking Nigerians to sacrifice and hold on. And you are not making any reason, you know, like Malam Nuruddin tried to explain. You cannot build something on nothing. Nigerians are expectant. We were thinking that we have left that point to a better point. But it's just unfortunate that, yes, we have moved, but we have only progressively moved, retrogressively moved, which you can refer to as progressive retrogression. So where we are today is far, if you ask me, worse than where we were yesterday.
Okay, well, just to let you know, the opinions shared on this platform are opinions of the makers and not that of independent television. And let's look at your bite in all of this, Neville Obakedo. You are a political scientist. Now, you could look at what Nigeria has gone through, and now looking at 1999 till date, we have had non-interrupted democratic rule. How do you access this rulership, democratic leadership, you know, from 1999 till date? And looking at the point of patriotic sacrifices, what do you see as missing, and how do we fill in the gap?
Well, thank you very much. I will look at the problem of Nigeria from a different perspective. And that perspective is hinged on what we call the elite theory of state affairs management. I'm talking about elite theory. The elite theory is of the contention that every society, in this case the Nigeria society, is being controlled by a tiny few minority. You can refer to them as oligarchic. They have their own interest to pursue, and at no point are they there to pursue the interest of the masses. And they believe that the masses are unorganized and unintelligent. And now, this is the position of classical Italian scholars like Gaetano Mosca, Vilfredo Pareto, and Roberto Michel. After them, other scholars have tried to develop on the theory of elitism. Now, when we are talking about Nigeria, military rule, Nigeria, democratic rule from 1999 till now. I see people coming out to say that you see these people, Nigeria democracy is the most expensive democracy. You see the executive, they are stealing money. You see the legislature, they are stealing money. Judiciary, they are corrupt. They are passing judgment in favor of people. I laugh because Nigerians have not come to that understanding that this Nigeria state is being presided over by a tiny few. And these tiny few are from the different geopolitical zones in Nigeria. And their interest is to continue to rule this country so long as they are benefiting. And now, what is the solution to this kind of arrangement? The solution is that the elite, the day that they will see that their interest in every society that they are presiding over, and they are robbing, they are defrauding, they are trying to appropriate their resources, by the time they know that their place in that system is being threatened, they will do something in the interest of the masses.
How will that come?
How will it come? Historically, let's look at how it came in other places. In 1789, in France, there was a revolution.
Okay. Are you going that way?
No, you asked me a question. I'm telling you of the solution to elite rule, and when elite rule is threatening the existence of the masses. Is that not the question you asked me about? Sacrificial leadership, patriotic leadership. My brother here, Malam Nurudi Asunogi, Esquire, he made a statement about Singapore. And when he was making the statement, he was reminding me of the Southeast Asian tigers. Singapore is one of them, Malaysia one of them, South Korea one of them. What do you call? They are just like 5 countries, even though other countries in that region decide to borrow a leaf from them. Now, they decided to establish what we call a developmental state through systemic planning of their policies, planning of their economy, planning of every aspect of their social life. And today, as it got to a point that these countries were now accelerating from the Second World to the First World. When you hear of Southeast Asian financial crisis, it was because the First World saw that these people will overtake them, that they withdrew their investment, and that led to the crisis in that area. What am I trying to say? Those people, these countries, those who were committing crime against the state did not spare them. Those who appropriated what belonged to the state did not spare them. The other day in 2021, or there about 2021, around September, NAITI, this Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Agency initiative, they came up with a report, audit report, that 77 companies, oil and gas companies, were owing Nigeria about 3.something trillion. That is half oil and gas companies that were in Nigeria. They were owing Nigeria half of Nigeria budget for that year, 3.something trillion naira. Then they now set up Bajabi Amila, who is chief of staff to the president now. He was the speaker then. He now set up a panel of another committee of the House of Representatives to investigate and report. Till date, these companies are still operating in Nigeria. Nothing happened to them. And so when we are talking, that is the royalties and the taxes that were supposed to accrue to government, they are in the pockets of the managers and the owners of this company, and they are still moving freely on the street. So when we are talking about sacrificial leadership, patriotic leadership, it is a double-edged sword. The leaders will sacrifice, the masses will sacrifice. When the president is making a statement that I feel your pain on the inauguration day, I said, Mr. President, you are lying. You are not feeling anybody's pain, because you have been senator, you have been governor, you have been leader of the ruling party, and I know the business conglomerate that you have. How can you be feeling the pain of a common man? You cannot even be feeling the pain of a professor in the university, because the professor will use his money to write article for publication. When it's due for promotion, we'll go and use his money to make photocopy of how many number of documents that we bind together and forward for promotion. The professor is not allowed, for instance, to produce a book and sell unless the book undergoes a process of scrutiny, and the book will be sold by the different university bookshop, as the case may be. So how will you be feeling the pain of such a person that they are owing up to 8 months salary and they have not paid? How will you be feeling the pain of the person? Before we now talk of the poor and the poorest of the poor. If anybody is telling you, any presidential spokesperson or the president, any governor is telling you, I'm feeling the pain of the masses, they are lying because they will not use their money to go to filling station to go and fuel their vehicle.
But that's your opinion?
It's not my opinion. This is what is. This is the reality. Which one is my opinion? And if they are watching, they know that what I'm saying is the truth. I'm nothing but the truth. If they even use their money, if they ever use their money to buy fuel, they will retire the money and come and collect the money from the post. Maybe more than what they have bought. So you cannot be saying that a president that is telling you, I'm feeling your pain, you believe him. I don't believe him. Now, number one.
Oh, okay.
No, let me just finish this one. The first thing is that before you can come up with a policy, because I listened to the president when he was saying the budget that was added over to him, he did not see provision for subsidy there, and so subsidy is gone. You cannot make such a statement. And people that are in position of authority should be well guided. When people are writing speeches for you, make sure you take time to read the speech and remove what you feel is not palatable to the people. He made that speech and he set the country on fire. You know how people are suffering now to get fuel across the country. The president and the speaker of the immediate past speaker of the National Assembly or the House of Rep is the chief of staff to the president. He's supposed to guide the president. If he doesn't know how policies are made and decisions are taken to affect the people, he should ask questions, look for experts that will guide them on how to make policy. You want to remove subsidy, the same subsidy that they opposed when Jonathan removed it in 2012, they are supposed to call what we call stakeholders meeting. We want to remove subsidy. These are the consequences of removal of subsidy on the people. Bring suggestions on how we can caution the effect. From our part as those in government, these are the things we feel we are going to use to caution the effect. Then the people will make their own contribution before you come up with a robust decision. It's not a question of making a statement.
Okay.
Just make a statement and then people are suffering and you are talking about, and you see figures that are being read out about buying of exotic cars, bulletproof cars for National Assembly members,
Apple compliant,
and so on and so forth. These are not signs of sacrifice. The people have sacrificed enough, and in most times, people have sacrificed their life because of this country. The other day, Mefele came up with a policy, and people died across the country. Life was difficult for people, and at the end of the day, we don't even know what has happened to that policy now, because the president made the statement that the old and the new currency will continue to be circulating concurrently. So when we are talking about good governance, the question is, what is good governance in the first instance? Because we have bad governance, and what we are seeing now is bad governance. We now need good governance. What is good governance? Good governance is a deliberate attempt by those in government to run the affairs of the state in the interest of the people.
When you say what we have now is bad governance, I don't get it, because you could also say that we had challenges, of the government tackling issues, to bring about a better governance. You can't entirely say that we have a bad governance.
Are you aware that
Nigeria democracy? I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Now, there's a lot you said, Nuruddin Asunogie, that painted a picture that Nigeria seems not to be getting it right, and that we are still in squalor, still trying to find our feet. There seems to be despondency, but let's try and see a picture where they say that no pain, no gain. So for us to go through, for us to get to our city of testimony, we must go through the cities of test. Now, we understand that Nigeria has gone through a lot of shakeups, and the economy isn't really bright, and there seem to be some shocks that are still coming. Do you expect a fast rule to bring about rosy start?
Well, thank you. You see, I am not a fugitive from optimism, except that I do not become inebriated or pixelated with optimism to the point that I am in self-denial of the reality that presently confronts me.
Wow.
The reality is what we have just spoken about. No pains, they will say no gain, but it must be pain that anticipates an outcome.
Of course, yes.
That is deliberate. Do we have such anticipation? We say no. When
in the petrol subsidy removal, for instance?
I'm coming. In petrol subsidy removal,
ending the scam in the oil industry as relates to subsidy.
Before Buhari came to power, in one of the campaigns, he was my man. I voted for him since 2003, and if he were contesting again, I probably would still vote for him. Maybe you call that an addiction. But before Buhari came, Buhari said subsidy to him was a mirage. He just didn't understand what subsidy was. When Tinubu came and said, I was removing subsidy, and I said what he simply was doing was to say, hey, the mirage that was subsidy should go. In 2022, NNPC claimed that about 3 or more trillion was used for oil subsidy. Those to whom the subsidy money was paid are saying we are being owed. I can't be indebted to you and I have paid and I'm still indebted to you. Does that not resonate? I mean, does something not echo?
So something is fishy.
Now, so what ought to go to Federation account for the good of the people was not going because NNPC was supposedly paying. And so if they didn't pay, where did the money go to? And when we talk about subsidy, we should know what exactly it was that we were subsidizing. If I bought a product, and that product is not a ghost product, the product should be seen, is verifiable. And so if we are not verifying this, the man who runs this studio, for example, is not one who has so much resources to the point that he didn't know what to do with the resources and found gusto in the dissipation of the resources. If this studio is not bringing return on investment, it will fold up. Why would I have people that I pay such elephantine resources to keep in the system who are not productive? What is the rocket science that our refineries are not producing? You know what it is the fact that because I am a malam, for example, a whole lot of persons who ordinarily should have been dependent on state are dependent on me. And my conscience, you can't sentimentalize the wretchedness of that conscience if I were to feel and become positive why those persons are ululating as a consequence of hunger. And so if the state had provided by way of job creation, you know what it would have been if our refineries were working? The multiplier effect it would have had, they are not working. And government has been deliberate to ensure that they do not work. Government together with those who are with them. So you say something, I tell you on my honor, I bought fuel last week because today is Tuesday, is another week. I bought fuel for 10,500. And I swear again on my honor, today I bought another fuel for 10,500. That is 21,000 naira in 1 week.
This happened.
My salary is still the same. And that has a multiplier effect on every other thing that I am paying for.
Of course, yes.
Now, you have someone. I mean, this is a country where people, you know, we've been asked to find a cover for the nursery so that we just get asphyxiated. This is a country where somebody was before a legislative house and he was being told, Honorable Minister, it's okay. He is the number 3 citizen today. And what was it he said? He said, you know how we do this thing. In other words, he was not palliating the fact that there was endemic corruption, that he was a participant. Not that he was playing a catalytic role. Not that he was playing an ancillary role. He was a principal actor. NDDC under his watch spent billions for workers in COVID-19, for workers who were very paid for not going to work. And we see the kind of vehicles they drive, whether as local government chairman, whether they are governors. It explains why they are not bothered whether our roads are motorable or they are not motorable. Because the vehicle enters the area, there is a problem, they replace. I can't navigate the road to my house. When it rains, I have to wait for a while. I pay taxes. And when I was a much smaller person in secondary school, we had a local government chairman, one late Alan Omobai, who of blessed memory, they were tying roads. One Yusuf Garuba was sole administrator for Esako West. Pumps were running in Auchi, public towns. I'm not telling you of boreholes. Local government, with local government resources. All of these are missing, and we are increasing. And I'm telling you, in 1965, when South Korea became an independent nation, we looked at South Korea, we mocked them, we sniggered at them. We said, when we are in the moon, South Korea will be aching and scraping out a miserable existence. Today, we don't even see the smoke that is generated by because of the distance between us and South. I mean, it is insulting to do a comparison between us and South Korea. And it is they don't have a fraction of the resources we have. We are suffering not because of a destitution of resources. We are suffering in spite of the superfluity of resources, but because there is a destitution of the human element. Pathologically plagued by cerebral destitution, people who studiously will emasculate the space for critical thinking.
Okay.
These are the people who are superintending our affairs. And so when you have that going on, when Mr. President, for example, says, I feel your pains, that is insulting. It's insulting to say the least. It is mockery. How can you feel my pains? Then I have to buy fuel 1 week 21,000 naira. I don't steal, I don't do Yahoo, I don't do nothing, and you tell me you feel my pain. And when they move, look at the convoy with which they move. Burning fuel. In the United States of America, if you traveled first class, you have to explain. You have to explain how you got that money. If you were Mr. President, if it's not official business that you were engaged in. Obama, as president, commander-in-chief of America, whatever, every entertainment that was held in White House was paid for by him.
All right, you still have the floor. Let's quickly, look at this. You made mention of the fact that, you voted for former President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yes, without regret.
And you without regret. And you also said that even if he was to continue, you will still vote for him. Now, and do you realize that the deteriorating state Nigeria is at this level was also, looking at the blames, on past administrations. The former President Muhammadu Buhari's administration also share in that blame.
I don't dispute.
You still have the floor. Wait. Do you also realize that a template was given or passed or inherited by the present administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has not even gone up to 2 months in office? So, which means whatever we are having is also as a result of the inherited deteriorating state that the predecessor passed, which you said you have no regrets voting for.
My brother,
and you said that you will still vote for him.
Yes, I said so.
What does he have that this present administration doesn't have that make you feel all of these grounds against this administration?
Let me tell you, when Jim Clinton, what is his name now? The former president of America. Not Bill Clinton, Jimmy Cliff. Was it Jimmy Cliff? The former American president, the one before Reagan. Jimmy Carter, when he was running for the second term, Americans said, we had expected that you would address our problems. He said, I didn't create them. I inherited them. And so they voted him out. They said, yes, we knew you didn't create them, but we voted for you to solve them. Tinubu is today commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Except you are telling me that he maintains a Bovian and obsequious disposition to the man whom he took over from. Then it means we have a dangerous person presiding over our affairs as president. If he's in charge, the gun stops in his court, then he must do whatever. I will tell you, Buhari unfortunately should not have sought power. Because before he came, between 1999 and 2015, when Buhari took over, the resources that came to this country under the management of the likes of Baba Iyabo paid into insignificance the totality of the revenue that came into this country between 1900 and 1999. But where did the money go? 16 billion for power that we never saw.
Well, I think that is still in contention.
Nothing is in contention.
That's 16 billion.
Let me tell you. I'm telling you. Let me tell you how crude these people are. Let me tell you how crude these people are. Let me tell you how crude these people are. One of them who ruled between 1999 and date, one of them had ruled before, took a 10 million naira loan from First Bank. That loan was written off by Adeosun when he became the CEO and chief executive, an MD of First Bank, because the loan was never paid. That same person took 2 billion when President Musa Yar'Adua floated mega agri whatever loan. We are in 2023. The loan, 2 billion he took 3 years after he had existed as president, had not been serviced, not to talk of being paid. These are the persons presiding over affairs, and they appropriate every platform they see to articulate, pontificate on the issue of how Nigeria will grow.
You don't seem to see any hope coming.
Hope will come if we deal with two fundamental departments. And unfortunately, they are sick. The religious department and the academia.
Wow.
They are sick. If we succeed in dealing with them, then you can be sure that there will be manumission. Because it was Shakespeare who said, the man must be sick, that you think will by his own self hand over to you that which is the basis for his dominance over you.
Thank you very much for your articulation. Let's get to you. I still can't forget that you are a civil society activist, so I try panning questions to you that we tailor in that line. You know, we heard what Neville Obakedo said when I asked him a question. Okay, how do we get it right in terms of changing the narrative? You know, and he was going the way of revolution, how countries had theirs. Let's look at this point where, you know, we are having a challenge where it's being said that the lawmakers are fixing their salaries themselves, their emoluments themselves, by usurping the position of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. And this is happening where we have an executive, you know, that is also supposed to carry out an oversight function to check each order, you know, keeping quiet. And again, the judiciary, we have these three arms of government. Now, a situation where we are not getting what is expected from these organs, what should the people do that will be seen as intelligent, alongside, you know, keeping the tenets of the provisions of the law and appropriately being an activist in your own line of profession? What should be done?
Never Obakedo was trying to adjust the matter and address it.
As a political scientist?
I mean, is it political science that is the issue now, or the facts? Because by the time you say the facts, you say opinionated. Now let me tell you. I don't know how you see the word revolution.
We are looking at, no. We are looking at the need for a constant engagement of the policies.
You.
No, wait. For you to have a better template. Let's look at, you know, we look at policy formulations, you know, that is being passed, formulated, and thrown to the environment. And then the way the environment will receive it will determine on how it goes on a visual cycle.
If only you just allow me, Philip. I know you are so scared of the word revolution without properly understanding what he meant. Is it violent?
That's not where I am.
No, is it violent revolution or diplomatic revolution, intellectual revolution? I mean, just sometimes you just hear the word, you begin to shiver. Anyway, but let me not address it from that way. You were asking from what should be the approach of the Nigerian people, if I got you right.
Yeah, looking at your perspective as a civil society activist. How do you engage the policies?
Philip, you always want things to be said the way you want it. And it can, that's the problem of Nigeria state today. Because those who say they feel our pains know nothing about pains. Because they were governors, they still receive pensions. As senators, they looted. Now as president, they still continue to. So what are we talking about? Now let me tell you. You say, how do we go? Nigerians, between 2022, end of 2022, and the first quarter of 2023, had a mindset tailored on the way to get out of the problem by going to the polls to cast their votes. And Malam Nuruddin just mentioned it. 2 areas that are very sick. Because the academia, who join with the elites, as described by Obakedo, to rob the Nigerian people of what belongs to them. Now, let me say this. Look at what happened at the polls. No gainsay the fact that it was not what the Nigerian people bargained for that they got. And then, because they know how battered the judicial system has become. Recently, we had, the social media and the mainstream media was a dog of the fact that, what's it called, the judiciary, very senior hierarchy or cadre of the judicial arm, were given visa ban. Now, that goes to tell you how bad it was when issues were raised by political parties during the collation of results. And then Professor Tariu Jega, Yakubu said they should not worry. The issues will be addressed after the collations before the final announcement. And before we could know, result was announced, a proclamation was made, somebody was declared. And the next answer he gave was, if you are aggrieved, go to court. And you know that now is one of the major things here in the local parlance. I tell you that, Philip, you are a Yoruba man. If you disagree with me, go to court. What does that imply? That implies that Nigerian people did not get what they bargained for. And that was the better approach. Because if you say we should not take to violence, which of course I'm not also encouraging, we should not do the other way around, like it happened in the Arab Spring. Nigerians decided that they were going to make a change, a positive one at that, at the polls, and it was not. So, Philip, I ask you, what do you think is a better way?
I think you are begging a question.
No,
you still have the floor. You still have the floor. Let me try and put it right in a way you won't have this mental paralytic situation that seems to be coming now. Now, let's look at the aspect where you, a civil society activist, supposedly engaging policy formulations, how the people react to the policies, and then engage in the process, by having it all even with the lawmakers and exactly terminate from where the people really don't want what they are doing, engaging them constantly. How often do you or does your organization do this? And what are the successes that you've had, or what are the setbacks that you've had? Exactly what I wanted you to share.
That I have mental paralytic.
No.
That's what you said. I needed to react. I said I needed to avoid
the mental paralytic situation.
No. It became clear that you're opinionated. No. Except you are withdrawing. Except you are withdrawing it. If you are not,
get me.
I got you.
Not having the understanding of what I asked.
I got you very well.
We bring about a situation where we will not understand each other.
Philip,
so that will be mental paralytic.
Philip.
If that's the way you understand it, I would draw it. If that's the way you understand it, but that's not what I meant. Go ahead.
You see, the truth of the matter is, what else do you expect the civil rights activists to do that we didn't do prior to the general elections in 2023 February? We were everywhere. We reached out to everybody, nook and crannies, and in the end, what did we get? And then when we sit down here and begin to articulate and address issues the way it should go, you said we are opinionated, we are becoming emotional. When Obakedo mentioned the issue of revolution, without wanting to listen to which angle he was going, he became emotional. So the point is this: we are at a dilemma. This country needs to wake up. The people have already made a decision to change the narrative.
All right.
And in the end, we got something that we didn't bargain for. And you are asking us as civil rights activists, because we are civil rights activists, that is why we are here at our own right. Because when you say activists or activism, what Obakedo and Malam Nuruddin Asunoje is doing is activism.
Okay.
They are trying to analyze
Okay.
the issues.
I think.
No, excuse me.
Okay.
As it were, provide solution, look at it presently, futuristically, and then look at the better way out. And as we stand today, until we decide as Nigerians, like Obakedo had mentioned, to decide to look at the elitist view of how they see Nigerians, that we must take the bulls by the horns.
Thank you.
And I know that is what Philip does not want to hear.
No.
No.
Thank you.
Allow me.
Press for time.
No,
press for time.
Yeah, press for time. Let me learn that the people sitting at the ends of affairs today begin to understand that the Nigerian people understand what they know, and that we are ready to address it the way it should go.
Okay,
we may never get there.
Thank you. Just as we expect that at all levels, all hands should be on deck, and activism should be improved upon, exactly at the point where we can say that we are getting the desired results. I don't see a Solomon Idiogbe resting on his oars or sitting on his hands when we still have issues that we need to tackle. And I see a Solomon Idiogbe to constantly engage the process as a civil society activist. Let's get to you, Neville Obakedo, as we round off in 1 minute. What do you see as the way out of this
1 minute
challenge we're having? In 1 minute, we are pressed for time, please.
Okay. As I said earlier, that our society is an elitist society, and the elites, they use political power, they use the economy and the military to hold down the people and oppress them and take their resources away from them. Now, the solution to it is this. Nigerians need to come to that realization. And I agree with my co-discussants here on the subject matter of trashing the issue of religion.
Okay.
And making religion to open the eyes of the people to the society that they live in and how the society is being run and the modus operandi of those who manage the society. Those in the academia too should wake up and see themselves as the beacon of hope of this country. When they are called upon to come and conduct election, they should do the right thing. And lastly, the people should know that the elite, based on their assumption, is that they are born to rule. They are the ones that have the skills, the talent, the resources to rule. And the masses are unorganized, they are not united, and so on. And that is why what is happening in Nigeria is happening.
All right, thank you.
The masses should not come to that realization, that we know that the elite are oppressing us, and they are taking what belongs to us and making us to dwell in poverty and living in squalor. We need an end to it. That demand for an end to this kind of system that they are running in Nigeria is what I call revolution. And it has happened in places like Sri Lanka.
Thank you. Big thanks, Neville Obakedo.
Unless it happens here, this bill will not sit up.
Big thanks to you, Nuruddin Asunoge. I know a lot you would have loved to also share, but we're pressed for time. Big thanks to you, Solomon Idiogbe, my big brother. And this is what we call it a wrap.